Welcome to the Dana Grant Show, where heart-centered stories, authentic connections, real talk, and real action come together. I'm your host, Dana Grant. I'm a life coach, speaker, and believer in the boundless power within every one of us. Each week, we're diving into raw, transformative conversations that not only spark healing, but growth and unshakable clarity. Because you know what? Your story matters. Your voice deserves to be heard, and your purpose is waiting to be fully lived. You're in the right place. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where I have a special guest in the house today. Now, Mae Novak is a relationship marriage coach, kind of. She's a little bit of everything. But what surprised me about her is that she coaches primarily men. So I want to welcome Mae to the house today. If you're not watching us and joining us on YouTube and you're just listening in, I'm going to say she's like a visual goddess. She's a beauty and an unexpected coach for men. And I just want to welcome you to the show. And I adore her energy. You will too.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I think your audience is going to get a whole lot out of this. And you're right,
Yeah.
it is a fresh take on the
Yeah.
coaching with men, and we'll get all into that. But I'm really excited, and I think we're going to help a lot of people.
Oh, I think so too. I never look at quick wins or any of those things, but looking at my own life and looking at the things I could have asked myself sooner, if we did a quick win for the women and men that are listening right now, what's one thing you could say to them that they can assess right now and look at? If they're leaning in and saying, "Ooh, I'm excited to hear about relationships and things are just not going great in my life." What's one thing a question they can ask themselves?
Right. So, one thing that no one wants is a more complicated life. Nobody wants their relationships to be more complicated, their work to be more complicated. So, everybody wants what's just like one thing I can do to connect with my partner to make things easier. And the topic
Mm.
of curiosity, approaching your partner with curiosity, even approaching ourselves and our own emotions with curiosity, that's been a buzzword. And if you're in like the therapeutic type of
Yeah.
settings, you might have heard a therapist say, approach it with curiosity. But then it's like, well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean? So I'll give you
Yeah, I'm
one
curious that we're not
question.
communicating.
Curious about curiosity. One question. So I'm going to use the man-wife example. So if you're a husband and your wife says she doesn't feel seen, she doesn't feel heard, she's pulling away a little bit, the next time she comes to you
Mhm.
with a story or a problem, a gripe, instead of trying to immediately fix it or get defensive, you're just going to ask this one question. Tell me more about that.
Hmm.
And then you're going to be quiet and you're going to allow her to tell you a little or a lot. It doesn't matter. The purpose of asking, tell me more about that, is
Hmm.
honestly, this is a little sneaky, not even to get more information. The purpose is to let the other person, your wife,
Hmm.
feel like she's got the floor, you care, and that she can energetically empty whatever it is that's on her heart in that moment so she can move forward. So if you just say, tell me more about that, it
Yeah.
is like a game changer. It's like a magic wand. And if you do that over time, whether you're a man or a woman in a relationship, it's going to allow so much more space to open up for trust and connection in your relationship.
You know, Tell me, I think you would probably agree with this. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. My mama told me
Yes.
that a long time ago, that
Hmm.
tonality is everything. What do you think the first mistake that relationships make that start to break down where the communication gap gets wider and it doesn't allow that growth, that understanding, that active listening where the defensive wall goes up and they're not feeling heard? Would it
Right.
be
So I think
tonality?
Well, yes, absolutely. But I think we're all trained to think that a successful relationship,
Hmm.
whether that's a friendship or a romantic relationship, is one without conflict. So this is a success if
Mm.
there's no conflict. Well, that's a lie
Well,
because
I hear
there's
that on
going,
Dateline a lot. We never had a fight. There was no conflict.
we never had a fight. No, let me tell you why you never had a fight because you both stuffed down all of your resentment to the point where you like didn't even like the sound of each other chewing. You know,
Mm.
like if you never have a fight, it's because no one is speaking up and because you're
Yeah.
afraid that if you bring something up, there will be no repair. And then the deep down subconscious fear is
Mm.
that you will lose that relationship.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So when everyone is afraid to be themselves because you don't know how to repair conflict, that starts the divide. And then the resentment grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you guys don't even know who each other are anymore. And you
Mm.
miss each other. You can miss someone in the same house, in the same bed,
No,
and you
I think you can grieve someone
miss
in the same
someone.
house in the
Oh,
same bed.
well,
Well,
sure.
let's flip that and let's look at a relationship that's full of chaos and yelling and arguing. What would you have to say to them? Same premise,
Well,
same solution?
so I've been in that situation. I can speak from
Yeah.
personal experience with that. And when two people have different communication styles, when one of them is very chaotic and yelling and the other one is not,
Hmm.
I don't have a magic pill for that because sometimes we as human beings just have to decide what we're going to tolerate.
Yeah.
If you've got two yellers in a relationship, they might be able to yell at each other and then when it's all over, move on. But if one of you is not like that, that is truly a recipe for disaster. And not all relationships need to last forever. I don't think a divorce or the ending of a relationship is a failure at all. It's a huge success if you've been able to learn about yourself, learn about
Mm.
relationships. Maybe you had a beautiful child or a couple beautiful children. You end that relationship successfully and you move forward. So, not all relationships are meant to last forever, but I do think if there's a lot of chaos in a relationship and one person just cannot deal with that as a spirit, as in their energy, they cannot deal with that, then
Right.
sometimes those relationships need to end and move on, and that's okay.
What is the percentage that you see that moves on and is okay versus it being tumultuous and a little bit
Yeah,
combative?
yeah, yeah. Well, times have changed so much. So think about like back in the day, people didn't get divorced. The divorce rate was really low. Well, a lot of that was because the opportunities that women had to leave were very, very little.
Yeah.
Women have changed what women are willing to tolerate, how women show up in the world. Women, we love making our own money. We're entrepreneurs and CEOs. I mean, it's a totally different landscape. So there's I've seen a lot with my clients that my female clients say it's no longer about my man paying for all the bills. What he can really provide me of value is how he treats me.
Mm.
And that is where a lot of men, not that men, all men treat women bad, obviously not. But
Right.
I think there is a gap between a lot of men thinking, wait, I was raised with
Right.
these old patterns of if I check off the boxes, I provide, there's food on the table, there's shelter, I participate with the kids
Right.
sometimes, that's
Yeah.
enough.
Acts of service. Yeah. Do you
Right.
give that? Do you give the five love languages to them to see where their strengths are, where their acts of service, or it's, affirmation or time to so they could see where the breakdown is or what the
Yeah.
other person needs?
I really don't. I like that book and I read it. But what I do with my clients is I listen because that's what I'm
Mm.
training them to do for their wives. Listen, because people will tell you everything you need to know about them if you just listen. So if I just say, tell me about
Mm.
how you spent your Mother's Day with your wife and your kids, they're going to tell me everything that I need to know about what they think is important, right?
Mhm.
If it went well, great. If it didn't go well, we're going to focus on, okay, what could we have done to make that better? And then they might say something like, well, my wife didn't feel like we showed up for her. And then I'll break it down into, all right, tell me what you did and let me translate how your wife felt.
Mm.
And so we
Yeah.
can move forward from there.
So, I wrote down some questions and I want to look at this one because I think it's a quick win actually for listeners to understand this. And it says, I put down, learn to how to identify whether your relationship is adding energy to your life or silently depleting it. Can you
Mhm.
expand on that?
Yes. So this is going to, well, it's not going to sound weird to you and me because we are energetic people. But
Yeah.
to our audience, think about the word yes. When you think about the word yes, your chest and your heart kind of expand.
Mhm.
You feel this openness. And
Mhm.
when you feel the word no, you kind of close in
Mhm.
a little bit. So it's all about knowing how it's going to feel to you. Is it
Mm.
an expansion or is it a contraction? And then whichever it is, you kind of go from there.
So what do you think one mindset shift that people can instantly do that will improve not only their communication, but their connection?
Yeah.
One mindset shift they can do right now as they're listening. I can do this. I can apply that one thing you said right now.
Yeah. So in addition to the question before about the curiosity,
Mhm.
another thing that you can do is just think of yourself. There's two people in a relationship, but there's a cloud above the two people. That's the marriage. The marriage comes before the two people. So the question really wants to be, is what I am doing, what I am saying, how I am showing up for the other person in the best interest of the marriage? Not the best interest of me, not even the best interest of her, in the best interest of the entity. Think about it like a business. Okay.
Mm.
If you've got different employees in a business, well, you all show up together as the business.
Mhm.
You can't do something as a CFO or the CEO that is detrimental to the business as a whole.
Right.
You really need to look at marriage as a business entity and do what's ultimately best for the entity.
Mm. So in the principles of universal laws, first cause, cause and effect, I would think of that entity as being the effect and first cause being us, that we
Mm.
must come first in order to feed that entity. So I mean, how does that come into play? If we're first
Well,
cause with cause and effect and the entity is this cause, re, I guess, conduct that so my
yeah,
listeners can understand because I teach
yeah.
universal laws and I'm thinking, well, that goes against the universal law of cause and effect.
Well, good point. So we all have to do our own work, and we hear that all the time, doing
Yeah.
our own work. But it truly is our work is to get our energy in alignment with universal law. So we are acting in accordance to truth, integrity, love. So assuming that the two people are already there, we
Mhm.
want to make decisions from that place to make sure that the entity of our relationship, our marriage, comes first.
Right. What do you think is the most successful thing relationships can do right now as they're listening? And what do you see as the most successful couples? I mean, we don't always see that because when people find us, they're struggling. But
Mm.
we move them through that to where they're communicating better, hopefully, and it hopefully they're not going through divorce. But like you said, that could be the happy resolution that they
Right.
may need. There is no right or wrong. It's just the expansive, heart-centered action of what feeds everyone best. But what do you think three habits are? Let's jump into it's like I'm just guided to say, what are three habits that you see for the most successful relationships that are thriving right now?
I think number one, allowing the other person to be themselves, like
Mm.
totally be themselves. If your partner, they're just a person that needs a little bit more alone time to process,
Mhm.
let them do it. If that means booking them a weekend in the mountains at a cabin so they can go do that, that is how they process. Because when you learn your partner enough to support who they are as a person and not
Mhm.
take it personally, that goes a long way. So
Right.
number one, really just allowing your partner to be completely who they are. If who they are, if your wife needs girls trips often, great, go. Where are you going next? What can I do? Can I help you pack? Can I book it for you? What do you need? I'll send you guys a bottle of champagne to your hotel room. You just need to support what the other person really needs. Give them all the wiggle room they need to be themselves.
Mhm.
Number two, I would say, and this one is so important, men particularly, please just listen. Don't try to
Mhm.
fix. When your wife comes to you and tells you about her mother,
Right.
who
Right.
maybe has early onset Alzheimer's or dementia, and
Right.
she's just railing about losing her mom and
Right.
what do we do next?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to call the memory care places and I'm going to call the hospitals. And yes, there's a time for all that. But in that moment, she just needs you to listen. And
Yeah.
listening doesn't involve a whole lot of talking. It's
You know,
listen.
would you find that when you just said that goes over all relationships as being a parent, all of it, I tend to be a fixer, so I want to step in and fix it and make sure everyone's okay. And I think that there's a duality there of me getting something out of it too, because then it's like, oh, everything's okay. But
Yeah. Oh, it's so hard. I
yeah,
mean, on a regular basis, I have a 10-year-old daughter. Oh, I want to fix everything. And when she comes home and tells
yeah,
me about conflicts at school, I'm thinking,
yeah.
okay, do
I
I
want
need
to
to call
fix
the
it.
principal? But it's like, no, she just
Yeah,
needs to talk.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. So what's the third?
And I would say number three is just spending really, really good quality time together
Mm,
and like not doing a whole lot. I mean, that can involve laying on the couch for a half a day, watching a new series. That can be just anything where you are physically kind of like skin to skin with your person, because scientifically, that lowers your cortisol levels, especially for women. So I've learned that men need physical touch,
mhm,
calms them down, lowers their cortisol. You know what it is for women?
mm.
In addition to physical touch, staring into each other's eyeballs.
I
And
just read that. I just read that it
did
lowers
you?
well there's it was a huge
Yes.
study on that, on just not only connection but the what is invisibly spoken and how it
Right. And
lowers
it's
the blood
that
pressure. Okay, yeah.
extended, I mean, you don't want it to get awkward. But just like after a hug or when you're laying next to each other, a 10-second stare into your soul session,
Yeah.
oh, it does wonders. So those three things I think can remedy most difficult times.
I love that. So to shift gears into what we can do to reconnect and build, what happens when trust has been annihilated? There might have been an affair or a huge betrayal.
Yeah.
Is it possible to rebuild after trust? Is it possible to regain a relationship after there's been a violation like that?
So I think anything's possible. It depends on the people in the relationship, because there are some people well, and it also depends on the type of betrayal, right? But
Right.
there are some people who maybe they're married, one of them had an affair, the other one doesn't want to get a divorce, they're willing to work on it. Maybe they're willing to work on it for years and it works, or maybe they work on it for years and they decide, okay, let's not do this. And then there are people that you cheat on me one time, like call the lawyer, lose my number, you're never talking to me again. And it is within that person's complete right to be that
Yeah.
way. So it
Yeah.
again, you just have to number one, don't do that. But if that does happen in your relationship, know that, let's just say you're the betrayer. If you're the one that betrayed, you have to know that whatever that other person decides is a personal standard for themselves
Yeah.
is what's going to happen. And that might be one and done, we're out, or it might be call the couples therapist. But do I think it's possible? I would think anything's possible, truly. Almost anything.
Mm. Yeah, well, honestly, yeah.
Almost anything.
Yeah, well, we had a conversation before some of the things I've gone through, and I think that the younger version of me thought if you ever hurt me like that or do that to me, I'm out. But what I came to find out that the healed version of me is able to hold space for betrayals, for all. It doesn't mean the relationship it can survive it, but the peace and the friendship perhaps can. There's a
Yeah.
different understanding versus the 20-year-old me that says, it's if that ever happens, I'm out, I'm angry and hostile, and it's war. Um, I
Mhm.
think I think that I think we grow over time, and I think the more we choose to heal, because I think our wounded self chooses. And what do you think about trauma bonds in relationships?
So that's really interesting that you said that your younger self would have been like, "Bye, I'm out," and your older
Yeah,
self is more like able to hold space. So
yeah.
my situation is like kind of flipped. My younger self would have held all
Mm.
the space and done the
Tolerated
therapy and
anything.
everything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now, because it is something that I have had to deal with, now I'm like, "Oh, we're done." But I
Out.
think it is
Yeah.
because my holding space and tolerance for some of that actually was coming from a trauma bonded people pleasing energy. It
Yeah.
wasn't coming from a healed energy. I hear what you're
Right.
saying now. Yours is a choice of healed energy.
But it was a trauma bond that I healed from and understood why I tolerated, why I didn't see, because people are like, how could you not see that?
Right. Oh
I
gosh.
had blinders because I think the 6-year-old that had a safety wound felt safe. That was a safe relationship. So I wasn't the grown woman who wasn't getting her needs met. I didn't look at that. I was negotiating with a 6-year-old who was getting her needs met, and she was running the show. I think oftentimes we have to look at what age is running the show.
For me, my boundaries were crossed so often, so many
Mm,
times that now my healed self in this situation goes, no, no.
yeah,
So it really just it
yeah.
depends so much from person to person, and it depends on the other person's ability to want to get better or just continue
Mm,
denying. But yeah, I do
uh,
think it's possible if both parties are willing, but sometimes both parties are not willing. So
yeah. The older I am, the more dynamics I see, and I understand so much more. Why, they say adult children will marry alcoholics from if your father and it was an alcoholic. I see the comfort zone, I see the wounds, I see the heal. I mean, because I was willing to do the work, I hold space for so much. And in a perfect world, which there is no perfect world. There are a lot of broken relationships, broken promises. But I look at if people can hold space, like you said, with that expansive question and listen and not want to
hmm.
fix and not interject and not want to, because I think a lot of times we can't hear because we take it so personal, like we've done something wrong. And it's like,
Right.
and we just need to be heard that we didn't do it like you were receiving it. And if you could just see that because and I noticed that in my own relationship, that anytime I wanted to say anything constructive, it was never received as constructive. It was always criticism because
Right.
he couldn't process. And I think we all process through an old filter and that
Hmm.
old lens. And he couldn't process that I really just was trying to give something constructive. But then again, the tone has a lot to do with it. And I've been told my tonality and I've always tended to be a little bit sharp and defensive. So I have to work
I
on the softening of my tone,
Yep, I'm with you
which,
too. Yeah,
yeah,
very direct,
very direct.
and it
Doesn't
sometimes
always
it can
land well. Yeah.
tone. Yeah. I've had to apologize a time or two
Yeah.
to be like, wow, you might have not have heard that because I was so direct. And I think it also depends.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from the South. I know you're not, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
and also maybe being a woman, there's just a little bit more of an expectation to be very direct if you're more a
Yeah.
man, like a man. But when a woman is just like right here, we're talking about the thing, it sometimes it throws people off.
Yeah. I was never a stuffer. I
Yeah.
was always, it was that mouthpiece and now I probably say less because less activates me. It's not that I'm stuffing anymore. It's just like, yeah, that doesn't deserve my attention or reaction. I was very reactive and now I just respond and I'm like, don't have the energy to respond like that. If it's not productive, it just immediately goes, oh, I see where the old me would have reacted to that and lost my mind.
Yeah.
This healed version of me is like, yeah, I can hear that. I can see that. And that's just like I'm not going to respond at all. It's not
Yeah.
worthy of anything. It's just,
Isn't it amazing how
yeah, I'm not
that
going to get the outcome I want
right. So
or
why waste
need.
the
So it's like,
energy?
yeah, yeah. Why would I waste the energy? Yeah,
It seems like my ability to edit myself is because of energy expenditure. When I was
yeah,
younger, I had subconsciously, not knowing, I had all this energy
yeah.
to fight back and
Yeah.
over explain myself and
Oh, yeah.
all
Oh,
that.
yeah. Let's just
I
talk about
don't.
that external over explaining and that all the energy that goes
Uh,
in to recreating
yeah,
the same scenario and trying to get a different outcome over and over again. I can see
yeah.
the version of you that says, listen, I'm not
I
going to
don't
get
have
that
the
outcome.
energy.
I don't have the energy for the outcome. I'm going to shift gears, like buy a new car and shift like 5 gears now because
Right.
that old automatic isn't working anymore.
Yeah, it's like
I'm a
running a
neutral.
marathon,
Yeah.
you're never going to finish. Some
Yeah.
of these long form conversations, and now it's just like
Yeah. I
we're
love
not
that
starting
mantra.
that marathon. Not doing it.
Love it. Love it.
Boundaries.
I was just going to say boundaries, looking at that version of us that asks ourselves first, what do I need?
Yeah.
And is this feeding me or draining me? I always
Yeah.
say, is this productive? Do I feel good? Do I feel joy? Does it feel like love? I ask that a lot. Does this feel like
Mhm.
love? Yeah, it feels like love. It may not be all the things that I need it to be because there's a different love language. Perhaps
Hmm.
someone shows up in acts of service and they're going to keep giving you acts of service. And you're like, boy, I could just sure use like words of affirmation. Like, you are so
Hmm.
freaking amazing. Maybe that would feel good, but it may not be what you've attracted. And I think that gives another opportunity for another level to drop in and growth where you can feed yourself those things. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Actually, just as you were saying that, I was thinking that at different times in your life, I think the different love languages are more important. Like for me,
Yeah. Mm,
earlier, it was I love gifts. And not just because I
yeah.
like sitting back getting things. I love
Yeah.
giving gifts.
Yeah.
Loved giving gifts. And so I like to
Ah,
receive gifts. Now it's like I can buy myself my own gifts. That's fine. Like gifts are I like them, but like I'll go buy what I want.
yeah.
I love words of affirmation.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
so it
yeah.
can change over time. And
Yeah.
but it's just such a joy to get to know somebody else's love languages and then show up
Yeah.
for them in the way that they want to. Because that is one
Mm,
huge thing in a relationship. I'm really glad that we're talking about this. Is when you show up for your partner the way you would want to be shown up for.
yeah.
Well, what about learning how they want to be shown up for and then do that?
Yeah.
So it's like you don't want to date yourself. You don't want to be married to yourself. Learn what the other person likes and
Yeah.
do that for them. And
Yeah.
that is the act of love.
Oh yeah,
That right
I
there.
love that we expanded on this because a lot of times we're like, well, I love presents, so I'm going to shower them with presents, and they're like, oh,
I don't
well, I
like
don't really
it,
dig presents as much as I would love some quality time with you, but we're like, oh, well, this is what I'm digging, so
but
I
I like it. Why don't you
yeah.
like it?
Yeah. Why don't you like it? Because I think
That's
we lose a
immature.
sense sometimes of self when
Hmm.
we merge into a relationship and sometimes we can get lost on like stepping back and looking at that other individual and allowing them to grow and change too. I think would you say this is what makes the most successful marriages that we're able to reinvent over and over again and rediscover a new relationship?
Yes, I think that's what makes the most successful when both parties do that. One thing that I hear a lot of, particularly women who are frustrated, is when, let's say, they got married at 22
Yeah.
and now they're 62, and the woman has done many reinventions of herself, and she says, I'm married to the same person I was married to when I was 22. I grow,
Right.
he doesn't grow. Obviously, this
Wow.
can go either way,
Yeah.
a man or a woman, either way. But I hear this a lot from women is that frustration. So I think the ability to be interested in new hobbies, do new things, grow in your own way so you can have new things to talk about is what makes the most long-term successful relationships as
Mm.
opposed to one person growing and one person not. That's actually a huge recipe for disaster, and it's happens often.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. As you were saying that, I was thinking about people that some are leaning into personal development and learning, and the other person is just in their same program and they're not
Hmm.
interested in that. But
Hmm.
where would you say, and I'm even looking at people that have divorced and have better relationships than ever, kind of like me. It's just like I've forgiven, I don't, but I couldn't rebuild that relationship the way it was. But I could hold space for healing and forgive. Where do you see in all of the reinventions and rediscoveries of relationships that where does forgiveness play a part in that? And do you think how big does forgiveness play a part in that?
Well, it depends on what you define as forgiveness. I have come to define forgiveness. I think I may have gotten this from Oprah at somewhere along the lines as letting go of the hope that it could have been any different.
Mm,
So letting go of the hope that the thing could have been any different, and then that is forgiveness.
mm.
So when I look back at,
Kind of acceptance of like, I
yes,
accept that I called that in, that I am part of that manifestation of that relationship. And I accept and I forgive myself too for showing up because
that,
it's a two-way.
that part.
I think we can disconnect there and there can be a rebuild in either direction, whether it be divorce or but maybe a friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Something
was
that
about to
is
mention
amicable.
the self-forgiveness. So, depending on what kind of relationship I mean, some people's relationships were horribly abusive and they don't
Yeah.
ever need to talk to that person again. So, in that
Right.
case, you can forgive yourself for not knowing back then
Right.
what you know now. Forgive yourself for making that choice because you were trying to self-medicate. Like I've said before, a lot of times when you're young and you get married, you don't marry your soulmate, you marry your wound mate.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
forgive
absolutely.
yourself for finding someone that perfectly met your wound, whether that
Yeah.
was a dad wound, a mom wound, a trauma
Yeah.
wound from your childhood. Forgive
Yeah.
yourself for not knowing any better. And then you
Yeah.
did the best that you could. So I don't see forgiveness as a
Mm.
pardon to anyone. I see
Yeah.
forgiveness as an acceptance, a dissolving of holding on to the energy, and then also just letting ourselves off the hook for decisions that we made that, if we could go back, we would do differently, but it's okay.
Yeah. I always say when we know better, we're required to do better.
You have to.
But yeah, when we know better, we're required to do better. But if we didn't know, I think we have to go through and apply love and forgiveness. And otherwise, you can't shame versions of you and continue to grow and forgive and accept.
Right.
It shuts you down, and you just keep going back there trying to fix that version of you
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
will continue to show up and repeat the cycles, which I know you probably deal with this. So, what is right now in 2026? What would you say is the most dominant thing that's going on out there in relationships? We've got AI, we have all this new technology stuff going on. All Everything impacts. What are the healthiest relationships doing, and what are the ones that you see are the biggest struggles that relationships are having?
Well, like I said earlier, women are changing so much. Millennials, I am one, we're in our
Yeah,
40s now. And
yeah.
so we grew up with a completely different set of rules. Our daughters are growing up knowing that they can do anything they want to do and they're not going to put up with anything. But when you were
Yeah.
born, I was born in the early 80s. And I've seen this arc of, women completely becoming self-sufficient. So I think that one of the things that is successful is when there's a couple and the
Mhm.
man is paying attention to the change in his woman over time because women change a lot over
Mm.
time. So if you're paying attention, making space, maybe realizing there's this whole there's this entire um what's the word? There's a lot of content creators on Instagram talking about equitable distribution at home. So no
Right.
longer are women saying, I need more help. We're just saying, aren't you going to participate?
Yeah. Well, what it
Here's
was called in my generation, and it was never really called that. It was just what you did, but it now is being called the silent workload. It's
right.
it's as
The
if
mental load. That's what
yeah,
I was
well, not
trying
only
to
the
say.
silent workload, it's like the laundry and the children. And I'm looking at my daughter who's 38, and I'm watching her marriage and my first grandson and how he's waking up. And there's so much equity and balance. And he took time off work as a marine biologist. And I mean, it was beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to
Yeah.
watch now. But that
Yeah.
was not the case for me.
So that's
Everything was on me. The budget, the diaper changing. I decided to go all organic, so no. So I was washing diapers, and I had a colicky baby. It was crazy, and two
yeah.
18 months apart, nursing two at one time, carrying it
Wow.
all, and no help. You didn't call in any help. And here my daughter is not only calling in help, we all scheduled time to go and spend week. And it's like, oh, I never considered that. I don't even know if it would have been available. It just wasn't a time where you asked for that. I know my
Yeah.
mom says, you better have that baby now or I have to leave. And I'm like, what? Don't leave. And
Don't leave. So I
yeah,
think that you describing that situation is exactly what is making or breaking
yeah,
couples right now. The couples that are splitting
yeah,
it equitably
yeah.
and to where it's not being called a husband helping a wife when they get up
Yeah.
in the middle
Whole
of the night and
verbiage
feed
is
the
different.
baby.
It's
No,
not like he's
they're
babysitting.
participating in
Yeah,
the
they're sharing.
family.
Yeah, they're
So the
sharing. Yeah,
men that are willing to learn about that and do it, and the men that are unwilling to learn about that and unwilling to do that. And right now in 2026, that is because your wife is on social media and she is hearing nonstop from content creators who are complaining about how husbands aren't equally participating in the home. So whether
Mm.
she says anything to you or not, this is what she's hearing
Right,
24/7 on Instagram. So if
right.
you're going to take that seriously and say, okay, The world has changed. How do I show up in my family in order for this to be successful? I would say that's probably the biggest one.
It looks so successful and it seems so natural when I watch them do it at in their 30s, their late 30s. But when I think about an older couple doing it, I think it's more challenging because he's got a mindset. And, I'm a
Hmm.
Gen Xer and almost a baby boomer. I mean, I'm just an end of the Gen X. I'm right. It's like the ideas. I mean, I was in a room not too long ago where I'm looking at the men talking about making billion. They're all billionaires up there on their panel. I thought when you were making those billions, that was in the 80s. I couldn't even have my house. I couldn't have bought the house without my husband. I couldn't have had a credit card in my name. I could not have a credit card with my first daughter in my name without a cosigner because women couldn't have that then. So when you were being
Wild.
born, it's kind of like me being born in the 60s where things are changing and I'm looking at segregation. I'm like, did that happen when I was born? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you're now I'm thinking when you were born, women didn't even have the right to have a credit card in their name. And now we're building empires. And I do believe there still are, we have a lot of growth in that department for women and loans and small business. I still think there's
Oh, yeah,
a
for
lot of
sure.
improvement that need to be done, but we've come a long way, baby.
Oh God, yeah. I know. I know. And I don't blame men for being a little bit confused as to like what
Yeah.
happened because I
Yeah.
call
What
it
happened?
yeah, what happened? I call it the inheritance, right? The
Yeah.
inheritance of the belief pattern of how to have a
Right.
successful relationship that gets passed down from generation to generation. It's like an
Yeah.
inheritance. Well, guess what? Things have changed so much that what
Yeah.
men learn from their fathers and grandfathers is actually what's ruining their relationships today.
Oh,
And
I
that's
say that
the
with business
breaking the
advice
pattern.
too. Stay
Yeah.
away from family and friends, the well-wishers that want to feed you because and I will tell you, it's interesting. My daughter, and it hurt me in the beginning, didn't call me so much about her relationship. She leans into him and they talk it through. She doesn't call me and complain and commiserate and he did this and that. I don't get a lot of calls. And she says, well, Mom, I have Google and AI, I can ask for an instant answer instead of calling you and saying, what do I do? The baby's crying and da da da. And I thought, you're right. I didn't have a phone back then. I didn't have a Google or a chat GPT or you know, or a Claude. She just asks that and gets the answer or leans into him, which is so I watched it. I
That's
was there for
great.
2 weeks and I thought, this is really so interesting. I was fascinated with
Yeah.
the trade-off, how effortless it was. And for me, it was like I never even considered asking. There was the environment I took on, that was my job, my workload.
Hmm.
And um, and there really wasn't, if I did ask, I don't know if I would have gotten that. The roles, the gender roles have definitely shifted.
Yeah, because there's
And
nothing worse than asking for help when you really need it and then and not getting it. I mean,
oh
that would
yeah.
just intensify your resentment times a million. So it's like, I'll just do
Yeah.
it myself, you know?
Yeah. Well, we hear a lot of women say that. I'll just do it myself. And maybe
Yeah.
men too. I think they're probably more silent about it. Women
I
tend to,
think they do it in different ways.
yeah.
I'll just do it myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, they don't talk about it. They just stuff it down
Mm.
and then it blows up sometimes.
Mm. Yeah.
Understandable. But it's about
Oh,
breaking those patterns for sure.
absolutely. Well, I was just looking down at your book, The Pattern Break, that's in the works right now. How can people find you, May? Where, what kind of, what do you, are you talking at any events coming up? Where can they find you in the world? Where do you hang out?
I hang out on
All the things.
Instagram mostly right now. I'm getting more
Okay.
into YouTube because I know that it's just better for long form conversations, which I'm going to be
Okay.
doing more of. But I hang out on Instagram,
Okay.
particularly my stories, because, like I said, I've got a 10-year-old. She just got out for summer break, and so I'm like,
Mhm.
okay,
You're sharing
it's
a lot of
us
them.
all day, every day. So I really get on stories and do a lot. So
Yeah.
Instagram for right now, YouTube, and then I love speaking. I love
Yeah.
speaking. So looking forward to doing that a lot more when my book comes out.
Oh, exciting. May I just want to thank you today for not only showing up. This is the first conversation where I think we dropped in a little bit deeper and we looked at it from more of the masculine, the male perspective, and how they're processing this this new version of us that are showing up. And you're right, more power, more entrepreneurs out there than ever
Than
before,
ever.
statistically proven. and moving very, very, very fast. All this information at our fingertips, even conversations where there would have been rage fighting before, now conversations are being put through ChatGPT and more diplomacy. Well, I hear you, but I can always tell when someone's using a ChatGPT where I would have gotten before, you really pissed me off and I'm not talking to you right
Yeah.
now. Now it's like, I hear you, but I'm going to step back and I'm going to take a break and perhaps we can reconnect when we're both feeling calmer. I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful chat GPT, but I'm glad you used it because
Right. Yeah.
I'm
It's a little
receiving it. Yeah.
buffer.
Yeah. It's a little buffer.
It's a
And I'm like,
buffer.
yeah, I think they're building in buffers, which I like buffers. I think
Yeah.
buffers on boats anywhere, you know, you don't have those little buffers when you pull in on your boat, you crash into the dock and you create
Right.
damage. But those buffers, it allows you to bounce a little bit and just
Yeah.
a little softer landing, which
Yep. A softer landing. We need that
I
sometime. Thank you,
yeah,
AI.
yeah, I am all for softer landings. All right, May, I want to thank you for just joining today and for the listeners that we'll have all May's links so you can connect with her out there on LinkedIn, her website to work with you.
Yes. Yeah,
You can
it's
find her
all in the works. You caught me early, but
yeah.
we're really getting everything together. It will be maenovak.com, and then my Instagram is at Mae Novak.
Yeah, we'll find her out there on Instagram, and I can guarantee you there are big things to come because, as you know me, for any of you that are listening, I tend to energetically find unbelievable people. And I can say I found her first, which I energetically found. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gold. She's gold. I love you. And I can't wait to see what you're going to create. And we're here to support you every step of the way, whatever you need. So,
Thank you. Thank you. This has been great. Thanks so
yeah.
much.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on the Dana Grant Show. And until next time, make sure to download this and make sure to reach out and ask questions. I know May will answer you on Instagram, and so will I. Bye for now.